Tonight, you meet a stranger, someone whose name you don't know, whose story is as mysterious as the night itself. There is no promise of tomorrow, no certainty beyond this fleeting moment. Yet, in the quiet exchange of glances and touches, a world unfolds full of softness, curiosity, and a gentle invitation to simply be. This is a story not of grand declarations, but of small, sacred intimacies, of the unspoken language between two souls who choose to share a night of tenderness and connection. So breathe deeply and come with me into a night where love is simple, present, and true. You hadn't planned to leave the room, not really. You told yourself it was just to check the air, maybe stretch your legs, feel something cooler than the lingering warmth of the evening pressing against the walls. The bed behind you was unmade. The wine glass by the sink still held its last swallow. The quiet wasn't unsettling, it was just too still, too sealed. So you opened the door. The balcony waited like a question you weren't sure you wanted to answer. Small, square, with an iron railing painted once black and chipped from weather. The view wasn't much, a row of sleepy windows across the alley, one shuttered, one glowing blue with TV light, another left ajar, a city that didn't know you and didn't need to. The kind of place you could be invisible in. And sometimes that felt like safety. You hesitated at the threshold. The air outside held a slight chill. Not enough to raise goosebumps, just enough to feel honest. It carried the scent of night dry, concrete, a trace of perfume from someone walking below. Something faintly floral that must have come from a courtyard farther down the street. You stepped out barefoot, and that's when you noticed him, not with a jolt, not even with surprise. He was simply there, already seated on the far edge of the balcony, just around the corner from where the wall jutted out. Legs crossed, a cigarette between two fingers, his eyes low, focused on the curl of smoke rather than the world. He didn't startle. Didn't look over right away. It felt as if he'd been there for hours, maybe days, or as if this moment had been waiting, suspended, for you to step into it. For a breath, neither of you said anything. You felt the pause stretch, then soften. He finally looked up, not with a smirk, not with hunger, just with awareness. As though your arrival had completed something quiet. Didn't mean to steal your view, he said, voice low, calm, as if you were old friends meeting again by coincidence. You smiled, stepping fully out, hands wrapped around your own arms. It's not much of a view. He tilted his head toward the city's sleepy windows. Sometimes that's better. You took the seat closest to the door, an old iron chair with a cushion faded by sun, not next to him, just near. He offered you space, but not distance. And in that small difference, you felt something open. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was the kind that lets two people find the rhythm between them before words fill it. You listened to the sound of the street, someone laughing. 2 floors down, the distant sputter of a motorbike, a dog barking once, then again, then falling silent. The city's lullaby dot, he tapped his cigarette gently on the edge of the ashtray balanced on the railing. Couldn't sleep? He asked, his tone still light, curious without pressing. You shrugged. Didn't want to, maybe? Good nights. Are wasted on sleep, he said, not as flirtation, just like someone who understood. Sometimes they're only meant to be lived through slowly. You turned slightly toward him, and the lamplight from inside caught the outline of his face. He had the kind of features that didn't beg to be remembered, but somehow were quiet, carved by time more than fashion, the kind that made you feel like you'd seen him before in a place that never existed. His jaw moved as he took another drag, his posture relaxed, comfortable, not performative. It calmed you. "I almost didn't come out," you said quietly. As if confessing a secret to the dark, his gaze found yours again, steady this time. "I'm glad you did." There was no weight behind the words, just truth. And that's when you realized this wasn't a chance encounter like the ones in crowded bars or loud parties or half-forgotten naps. This was something quieter, something liminal. A moment slipped between the folds of the night, offering no promise, only presence. You let yourself breathe a little deeper. You reached behind and pulled your hair over one shoulder, letting the air touch the skin at the back of your neck. He noticed, but not in the way others do. Not like someone calculating or collecting, just noticing, like someone watching. A breeze move across water. He took one last pull from the cigarette, then snubbed it out gently in the tray. "Want some wine?" he asked. "There's a bottle in my room. Not amazing, but open." You surprised yourself when you nodded. "Sure." He stood slow and unhurried, like someone who doesn't believe in rushing time. You watched him slip inside, the door whispering closed behind him, and you sat alone for a moment. The balcony felt different already, as if it had leaned slightly toward something you hadn't yet named. When he returned, he handed you a half-filled glass. Your fingers brushed. The contact was warm, not electric, not rehearsed, just warm and real. You took a sip. It wasn't amazing, but it was enough. You leaned back in your chair. The two of you sat again, this time closer, and still no names. It didn't matter. Some stories don't begin with introductions. They begin with space. With a pause at a doorway, with a city that doesn't know you, and a balcony you almost didn't step onto. The wine is mediocre, but somehow it tastes better on this balcony. Maybe it's the air, or the fact that the glass wasn't poured for a performance, just offered without pretense. The night continues, not moving forward so much as unfolding gently around the two of you like a slow ribbon of smoke. He leans back in his chair, his ankles crossed, fingers loose around the stem of his glass. You notice the details now, the slight curl in his dark hair, the faint scratch in his voice when he speaks, the way his shirt is unbuttoned just enough to let the collar fall open, not for style, but comfort. He's not trying to charm you, which is in its own way disarming. Sit beside him, legs curled under you, the railing in front of you catching the moonlight like an old mirror. A faint breeze stirs your hair across your face, and you don't bother tucking it back. There's something about the quiet, about the way he's not filling it with questions, that makes you feel less like a guest and more like someone who belongs to this hour. "I don't usually talk to people like this." You say, not as a confession, but as a soft truth. He nods. "Neither do I." It's not flirtation. It's agreement. Two people admitting they've stepped outside their patterns just for a night, just long enough to see what lives here in the in-between. He lights another cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating his face, throwing shadows across the shape of his cheekbone. You watch the smoke rise, curling into the air like something half alive. It doesn't smell harsh in the breeze. It smells like memory, like someone you once sat beside at a train station in a city you've almost forgotten. What brought you here? He asks, not looking at you, but at the sky. You pause. Not because you don't know, but because you're not sure how to answer without sounding like every other woman trying to outrun her own routine. Noise, you say finally. Too much of it. He smiles slightly, the corner of his mouth lifting, and the city seemed quieter. Not quieter, you reply. Just ... not mine. You hear your voice and wonder if he understands what you mean, that it's not about the city at all. It's about finding a place where you're allowed to be no one for a little while. He glances at you then, not sharply, just long enough to let you know he gets it. Sometimes, he says, we need a night that doesn't recognize us. You nod. And in that moment, something in you loosens, like your spine realigns itself with the air, like your body remembers how to sit in ease, not armor. He lifts the cigarette to his lips again. You watch the ember glow, then fade. The silence between you is thicker now, not because it's uncomfortable, but because it's earned. Like you've moved past the need to make each other real with details. He hasn't asked your name, you haven't asked his. And strangely, that feels safer. You look like someone who likes old movies, he says after a while, his voice tinged with curiosity. You laugh softly, only the black and white ones. When everyone knew how to pause before they spoke, he chuckles. That's rare. Most people only like the endings. You glance over, and for the first time, you let your eyes settle on his fully. He's watching the sky again. The glow of the street lamps paints a halo across the side of his face. He's beautiful in the way certain songs are quiet, slow. The kind you don't realize have changed you until the last note fades. You want to ask him things, where he's from, what he's running from, why he's alone on a balcony at this hour with a bottle of wine and no coat. But you don't, because you're starting to feel like this night is a spell, and speaking too much might break it. Instead, you take another sip of wine. He flicks ash into the tray. The breeze shifts. Your knees brush. He doesn't move away, and neither do you. I like this, you whisper. He turns slightly. This? You nod. This quiet. This... whatever this is. There's a pause, and then he says, it's enough. You rest your hand on your knee, fingers tapping idly against the stem of your glass. His voice still lingers in the air. Not heavy, not asking anything, just present. Like the low hum of a record player between songs. Do you want to be asked? Your name? He asks suddenly. You look at him, and you realize you don't single quotes T. not yet. Because if he says your name, it will become real in a way you're not ready for. It will put edges around the softness. It will plant this night into the timeline of your life, when what you want is for it to float unclaimed. Untethered, true ... so you smile. Not tonight. He nods, not disappointed. Just understanding. I'll call you the girl on the balcony, he says gently. You laugh, low and honest. And you? He takes a drag from his cigarette, then smiles through the exhale. The stranger who didn't ask. The night deepens, but it doesn't grow colder. If anything, The warmth between you now isn't coming from the wine or the faint breeze or the city still glowing quietly beneath you. It's coming from something unspoken, something being built breath by breath without pressure or shape. Conversation, like smoke, like silence, drifts in and out of form. And for once, you don't feel the need to hold it. He doesn't fill the space. He gives it. And in that gift, you find yourself saying things you didn't plan to dot, not confessions, not facts, just little truths that rise to the surface when no one's collecting them. You tell him, you love walking in unfamiliar cities, how you sometimes talk to yourself in mirrors, how your favorite sound is shoes on wooden floors. He listens not like someone waiting for their turn, but like someone soaking in a language they don't speak yet, and in return, he gives you pieces of himself too, not like offerings, but like pebbles dropped behind him on a path. He tells you about his grandmother's garden, how he sometimes wakes at 3 a.m. for no reason and just lies in the dark, counting cracks in the ceiling. He once drove 10 hours for a concert that got canceled before he arrived. He laughed then, as if he still isn't sure whether the drive was wasted or sacred. You lean your head back, eyes lifted to the indigo stretch of sky above the buildings. Not searching for stars, just letting the openness hold you. He mirrors you, leaning back in his chair, arms resting loosely on the armrests, legs stretched out like he's not in a rush to leave this moment. What are we doing? You ask softly, the words slipping out with no edge. Just wonder. He turns his head slightly toward you. Being strangers, he says, properly. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's true. And because it feels good too. Laugh into the dark with someone who expects nothing from you but what you're already offering. No names. No plans. Just now. You're both speaking like people who know there's no sequel to this. That whatever this is, it ends at dawn or maybe before. And somehow that makes it easier to be honest. There's a tenderness in knowing you won't have to carry this story forward, only deeper. So what do you think of me? You ask, curious, not fishing. He thinks for a long breath, I think. He says slowly, you're the kind of person who stays quiet in a crowded room, not because you're shy, but because you're listening for something no one else hears. You don't reply. Not immediately. The words land, not like compliments, but like someone pressing their palm to your back and saying, I see you. You don't have to explain. You turn to him and he meets your gaze, steady and open. And me. He prompts. You study him for a moment. The curve of his mouth, the tiredness around his eyes that doesn't seem sad, just lived in. The way his wrist moves when he gestures a slight elegance, like he once played piano or painted, something tender with his hands. I think you've been alone a long time, you say, but not in a bitter way. Just gently. He doesn't look away, doesn't deflect, just nods once, like you're right. You don't speak for a while after that. There's no need. The city murmurs around you, distant tires over cobblestone, a window closing somewhere above, the slow turn of a fan from the apartment next door. Time feels horizontal now, not moving forward, just stretching out beside you. Unmeasured. You sip the last of your wine and place the glass quietly beside your chair. He does the same dot, then he leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees. clasping his hands together. If this were a story, he says, voice quiet, how would it end? You smile, tilting your head. You're assuming it hasn't already. He glances at you with that half smile again, the one that's always both amused and warm. Fair. You sit forward too, your knees almost brushing his now. You look at his hands, the way his fingers rest so calmly together, and you feel something stir. Not urgency, not desire. Just the simple pull of wanting to stay close to someone who listens without claiming. I think, you say slowly, this ends when it needs to, not before, not after. He nods, and your eyes meet again. Then we don't rush. He says, and you don't. You let the silence return richer now, full of things said and unsaid. His shoulder leans slightly toward yours, not touching yet, but close. Like the distance is shrinking by choice, not accident. And still, neither of you asks the other's name, because tonight it doesn't matter who you were before the door opened, or who you'll be when it closes. Tonight, you are just this. People who speak like there's no echo, who look at each other like memory can't follow them. Home. Who talk like they'll never meet again and love each second for that very reason. The bottle has grown lighter by the hour, though neither of you has been drinking quickly. Every sip has been part of the silence, part of the rhythm, the soft, slow tide of presence flowing between you. When he lifts it now, you can hear the small sound of what's left swirling inside, like a whisper from the bottom of a well. He doesn't ask. He just pours. You watch the red ribbon fall into your glass, catch the faint chime as the last of it drips from the mouth of the bottle. It's a quiet, intimate sound, like the end of a conversation that never needed words. He sets the bottle down gently on the stone floor between you. Empty now. Still warm from his hand, you lift your glass and swirl it once, not to judge it, not to savor it, but to notice the way the light moves through it. The glow from the apartment inside is golden, honeyed. The balcony railing catches it in slivers, casting lace-like shadows across your knees. Everything feels slower now, looser, as if the world has stopped trying to rush itself forward. When you take a sip, the wine tastes different, earthier, more honest. Or maybe it's just that you've stopped tasting it like a drink and started tasting it like time. He's watching you again, but not in the way men sometimes do. There's no calculation in it, no intent, just observation. Just stillness, like he's memorizing this evening in frames, gently, without trying to own any of it. You lower your glass and smile. He leans back again, elbows resting on the arms of his chair, his head tilting toward the sky. I love the end of bottles, he says, voice quiet, mellow. Not because I want more, but because it reminds me the moment's almost full. You glance at him, a slow warmth rising in your chest. You talk like someone who writes things down. You say, he smiles, not in surprise, but in something like recognition, only when I want to remember what I wasn't supposed to. You sit with that for a breath, your fingers tracing the curve of your glass. The warmth from the wine has settled into your limbs, not dizzying, just deep. Like candlelight under the skin, you shift slightly in your chair, turning toward him. A little more. The distance is now less than an arm's length. Your knees are closer. Your ankles nearly brush when you cross them. I don't usually let the night get this long. You admit softly he doesn't ask why. He doesn't need to. Instead, he matches your softness with his own. Then maybe it's about time it did. And somehow that feels like permission not to fall, not to escape, but to remain. To stay right here in this balcony-shaped pause, where the world hasn't come asking yet. The wind moves gently through your hair again. You tuck it behind your ear this time, and his eyes follow the motion. There's a shift, not dramatic, not sudden, just the hush of attention folding inward. You feel it in your shoulders, in your breath, the awareness, the nearness. You lean forward slightly, resting your forearms on your thighs. Your wine glass dangles between your fingers. He mirrors you, knees to knees now, the space between you humming with something tender. You don't know how much time has passed. Time has become irrelevant, something outside the gate of this balcony. Here, there is only the rise and fall of voices, the curve of a smile, the shared weight of the final glass. What if we don't say goodbye? You ask suddenly, not because you mean it forever, but because you're afraid to think of endings. When everything still feels so softly beginning, he tilts his head. What if we never said hello? You meet his eyes and feel it then, that low thrum of recognition, not of past lives or soulmates or anything mystical, but of timing, of two people meeting at the exact moment they were willing to be seen. Not safe. You nod. No more words are needed. You drink, and for a while, neither of you speaks. The city sighs around you. A door creaks open across the alley. Siren passes in the far distance, and then he stands. He doesn't rush it, just rises slowly, empty glass in hand. His gaze flickers toward the inside of the apartment, then back to you. His hand doesn't reach out, but his body offers something. Question, a gentle tilt of gravity. You follow. You don't speak. You rise. Your own glass left behind on the railing. Forgotten in the glow of something warmer. You step through the balcony door. Barefoot, silent, not because of what you expect, but because of what you're willing to feel. And behind you, the bottle waits, empty, still, witness to a night that didn't try to impress you, just invited you in. The doorway swallows you gently, and the hush inside is immediate. Not silence, but the kind of quiet that wraps itself around you like cotton. The hum of the street fades behind the thick glass, replaced by the low tick of something invisible, like the soft breath of old wood or the sleep of tired walls. You pause just inside, letting your eyes adjust. He steps in behind you and closes the balcony door with a sound so soft it might have been a thought. For a moment, you simply stand there, barefoot, your skin tingling from the cool tile beneath your feet. The air inside is different, cooler than the night, but not colder. It smells faintly of linen and something slightly citrus, clean. Live and you don't know this man's name. You haven't asked. He hasn't offered. And yet there's a rhythm between you now. Quiet and sure, like the shared breath of two pages in the same book. You move deeper into the room. The furniture is simple. A low couch with a folded blanket at one end. A lamp left on, its shade tilted slightly, casting soft golden shadows. There's music playing somewhere, not loud, not clear, just the memory of jazz. As if someone once played a record here and forgot to turn it off. The room feels unfinished in the way temporary places do. Like it's not trying to convince anyone it's home. You sit, not on the couch, on the floor, first dot your back against. The wall dot your knees, pull to your chest dot. It's instinctive, not defensive. You want to be close, but you want to feel grounded too. You've never liked making decisions from above. And this feels like choosing a perspective where nothing has to be earned. It can just be, he notices. Doesn't question it. He lowers himself beside you slowly, with the kind of ease that makes space rather than takes it, not touching, but near enough that you can feel his presence at the edge of your awareness, like heat. Your arms rest on your knees. His legs stretch long in front of him. Neither of you speaks. There's nothing awkward about it. The silence is full brimming, even with something almost musical. You listen to his breathing, the rise and fall of it, the pauses, the way he exhales softly through his nose. You let your own breath slow to match it, not on purpose, just because it feels natural. Like you're sinking, like you've been sinking for a while now. The lamp flickers. He looks over at you, not directly, but sideways from under his lashes. You don't look away, and in that glance, you feel something shift, not loudly, not dramatically dot, just dash nearer dot you. Uncurl your legs and stretch them out side by side with his now. Your bare ankles rest just close enough that the space between them feels intentional dot still. You don't speak, but you feel dot everything dot the pulse in your wrist, dot the warmth beneath your skin, the quiet invitation in the way. Your shoulder angles just slightly toward him. I didn't expect you to sit there, he says finally, his voice soft as dusk. You smile. I didn't either. It's not a flirtation. It's an admission, and you feel him smile too without needing to see it. His fingers brush the floor idly. He shifts, leaning his weight back onto his palms. You do the same. And now your arms are nearly touching, your elbows just shy of one another, your hands so close the air between them seems to hum. You don't move, neither does he. There's a tension here, but it isn't sharp. It's warm, slow, like sun filtering through closed eyelids. It's the kind of tension that asks nothing of you, that waits patiently for you to lean in if you want to. And even if you don't, you turn to him now full. Your hair falls over. Your shoulder dot your eyes meet, and still no names. He tilts his head slightly, the corners of his mouth pulling upward. You notice the way the lamplight settles on his cheekbone, the softness in his jaw, the steadiness in his gaze. Not expectant, not invasive, just present. I like how quiet you are, he says. You breathe in slowly. It's not that I don't have things to say, you whisper. It's just dot, most of them don't need to be spoken tonight. He nods. Exactly. You shift your weight and let your shoulder rest lightly, very lightly against his. It's not a declaration. It's a whisper of proximity. He doesn't move away. You feel the heat of him, calm and sure, like a lighthouse that doesn't try to follow the boats. Just stands and waits, steady dot, and in this closeness, something in you begins to dissolve, not in the way people fall apart, but in the way walls soften, in the way a body forgets to brace itself, in the way a mind unclenches after holding on for too long. You didn't plan to sit this close. You didn't plan to be here at all, dot, and yet, here you are. breath to breath. No pressure. No stories traded like currency. Only nay, ARNESS. Only now. Only the simple truth that sometimes the safest place is the space where nothing is asked of you and everything is quietly felt. The air between you is still, not frozen, not tense, just still, and the way twilight holds the last of the sun before letting it go. His arm is close now, brushing yours as you lean together against the wall. You're not looking at each other, not needing to. The silence has turned into a room of its own, one with soft walls and no door, one you've both willingly stepped into and forgotten how to leave. You shift slightly, turning your body, drawing one leg up so your knee points toward him. He moves, almost at the same time, just enough to mirror you. His thigh rests beside yours now, the heat between your knees barely perceptible but alive, like coals under a layer of sleep. And then he lifts his hand. You don't see it coming. There's no announcement, no gesture signaling intent. It just rises from his side and hovers for a heartbeat before resting lightly on your back. Not low, not suggestive, not possessive. Just there. His palm lands gently between your shoulder blades, fingers splayed wide enough to feel the shape of you, but not press into it. The pressure is soft, almost non-existent. He's not guiding you, not holding you, just making himself known in the quietest way he can. You don't flinch. You don't stiffen. Instead, your breath deepens, because that touch, it isn't about taking. It isn't about desire in the way you've come to expect it. It's about anchoring. It's about presence. A silent sentence that says, I'm still here. I'm still listening. You don't have to carry yourself alone, your eyes closed, not to hide. But to feel more clearly, with your back resting under his palm. You realize how long it's been since you let someone touch you like this. Not for attention, not for permission, but for stillness. There's something so tender about being held without being held back. He doesn't move his hand. He keeps it there, light and steady, like a page waiting to be turned, like a pause in the middle of music. And it changes something in you gently. Not like a wave crashing, but like the tide returning after a long time away. You find yourself leaning into the feeling, just a little, letting your shoulder blades rise and fall beneath his fingers as you breathe. And with every breath, you feel the world inside you soften. The day drains out. The questions lose their edges. Your thoughts stop reaching. You don't speak. He doesn't either, but your body speaks for you. No. It says, stay, just like this. Don't move yet. And he listens. His thumb shifts once, slow and quiet, grazing a small arc against your spine. You feel it like a match being struck under water, brief, warm, unflinching. It sends a ripple through you. Not of want, but of recognition, as if your back has remembered something your mind had forgotten, that you are, in fact, made to be touched, gently, patiently, without demand. Your breath stutters, and you hope he doesn't notice, but then you feel his fingers curl slightly, resting more fully against you. Not tighter, just closer, as if he's noticed, as if he's saying, I felt that, and I still mean to stay. The room holds you both like a breath neither of you is ready to let go of. You sense time passing, but it doesn't bother you. The night can take as long as it wants. The world outside this moment feels irrelevant, flattened. You could stay here for 5 more minutes or 5 more hours, and it would still feel unfinished in the best way. Eventually, you shift your weight and let your head fall gently to one side, close to his shoulder, not onto it, just near enough to hear the heat in silence. His hand is still on your back, still. Steady, still not asking, and suddenly you understand something that has nothing to do with romance or chance or lust. You understand what it means to be met without explanation, without title, without history. To be allowed to exist beside someone as you are, not as you're trying to be. You whisper something, barely audible. Maybe it's his name. Maybe it's nothing at all. He doesn't answer, but his hand stays. And in that staying, he gives you more than any promise could. He gives you this. A night with no names, a touch with no demand. Silence shared like shelter, and the weightless. Wordless truth that sometimes the most intimate thing someone can do is not let go, It would have been easy to close the space. The distance between your face and his was so slight, it barely had definition anymore. Your shoulder leaned toward him now, your head tilted just enough that your cheek hovered close to the place where his collarbone rested. You could feel his breath without measuring it, feel the stillness between your words thickening like warm fog. You were close enough to kiss closer, even. But you didn't, and neither did he. He could have. You could have leaned just half an inch more and found his mouth with yours. And it would have made sense. It would have been welcomed. Expected, maybe. But something about this moment asked you not to take, not to reach, not to seal it too quickly with heat. Something about it asked for stillness, so instead you sat, your thighs touching now, lightly, his hand still on your back, now curving with the slope of your spine like a quiet sentence. In a foreign language you somehow understood, and your face tilted closer, but stopped just before the edge. Your breath met his, but your lips didn't, and in that almost, you felt something deeper than contact, restraint, yes, but not out of fear, reverence, like you were both holding the pause of something sacred, some unnamed softness neither of you wanted to rush, because to kiss then would have ended the question, and right now the question mattered more than the answer. He turned his head toward you, slow and full of breath, and for a flicker of a moment, your eyes met, not briefly, not timidly, but directly with a weight that said, I see you, and I'm not afraid of this stillness. You don't know how long you stayed like that. 5 seconds, 10, a minute. Time loosened its grip and just let you float, and the kiss didn't come, not yet, instead. He did something quieter. He reached up with his free hand and brushed a strand of hair from your face. Just that, a single fingertip sweeping near your temple. The motion was slow, delicate, the kind of touch that doesn't lead to anything else. It just is. Your eyes fluttered closed, not because you were swooning, but because your body was overwhelmed. By gentleness, the back of his hand grazed your cheekbone, and then he let it fall away, and he returned to stillness, like he had given just enough and then offered space again, and still no kiss. It was almost infuriating, not because you needed it, but because you didn't know how to want it without chasing it. You weren't used. To a man who didn't take the cue, didn't lean in the moment your mouth parted, you weren't used to your own patience either. But here it was, blooming slowly in the absence of touch. You turned your face just slightly, and your nose grazed the edge of his jaw. You could smell the skin of his neck clean, warm, with a trace of something like cedar or soap. And still he didn't move. He let you explore that closeness without closing it. He gave you the freedom to stay in almostness. It was the first time in a long while that desire didn't feel like hunger. It felt like attention, and you realized how often kisses have been used to skip the moment rather than sink into it. But this not kissing felt braver. It felt like an invitation to be more than an object of heat, to be listened to, not claimed. You whispered, "You're not going to kiss me, are you?" He smiled, slow and soft, and his voice came quiet as breath. "Not yet. Not never, not unless. Just not yet." And you exhaled. Something deep in your ribs, unfolding like petals. There's a kind of power in choosing not to act, and letting one sit beside you rather than consume you. And here you were, shoulder to shoulder, with a stranger who had become a mirror, not of who you were, but of who you could be. Someone who could sit in longing and not break it open. Someone who could hold the ache like a gift. Your hand drifted down to his knee, resting there lightly, no pulling. No push, just contact. He covered it with his own gently. The room felt holy, not. In a religious sense, but in the way still water feels sacred when nothing disturbs it. There was clarity here, not in what would happen next, but in what was already present. And as you leaned back again, placing your head against the wall, eyes tilted toward the ceiling, you smiled to yourself because tonight the man beside you didn't try to take your mouth when it was near. He didn't press for more just because you were close, and in doing nothing, he gave you everything. The stillness between you has become something you can lean into now. Not like a wall or a bed, but like a slow tide, a current that doesn't ask where you're going. Only if you're willing to float, and you are. You've never felt this quiet around someone before. Not quiet because of nerves, not quiet because of hesitation, but quiet like trust. Like the night is holding both of you steady, and neither of you wants to be the first to speak too loudly and startle it away. The air around your bodies is humming with decision, not loud, not sudden, but steady. Your fingers brush his knee again, and this time his thumb traces a small arc across the back of your hand. It's such a small motion, but it lands deep. It speaks in a language older than words, one your skin remembers, even if your thoughts try to stay outside of it. He shifts a little closer, just enough that your sides press together now, hip to hip, warmth meeting warmth. You feel his breath closer now, softer. His shoulder turns toward you. His head bows slightly, and he waits. He doesn't reach for your face, doesn't ask with words. He just holds still, near enough for the question to exist in the space between your eyes and his lips. And suddenly the room narrows, not in a closing way, but in a focusing way. The rest of the world falls away. There is only this breath, only this heartbeat, only this man who hasn't tried to kiss you once and somehow feels like he's already touched the most hidden part of you. You don't nod, you don't speak, you just let your body say it. You tilt your face forward very slightly, and in that motion you give the quietest yes, a yes without sound, a yes without rush. A yes that is less about permission and more about surrender, not to him, but to this moment. This moment you've both shaped with silence and soft glances, with restraint and breath, with wine and not wine, with everything unspoken. And finally, he moves slowly, tenderly, not like he's reaching for something he's wanted all night, but like he's answering a call you made without knowing you made it. His lips touch yours, not deeply, just once. First kiss that feels more like a question than a claim, and your mouth answers in the gentlest way it knows. By softening, by staying, by breathing into the kiss instead of pulling him further. Harder, he keeps it slow. You match him, no one leads. There's no choreography here. Just the raw, quiet reality of two strangers pressing their mouths together, not for pleasure, but for presence. For proof that this night isn't a dream. That your bodies can meet without expectation. That softness can carry weight. The kiss lingers, just barely. And when he pulls back, he rests his forehead lightly against yours. You feel his exhale across your cheek. It's warm, like tea, like shelter. He doesn't speak, neither do you. There's nothing to explain. But yes has already said everything. You close your eyes and rest your hand on his chest. His heart is there, steady, not racing, just certain. And in that rhythm, you find your own breath again. I didn't expect this, you whisper. He doesn't ask what you mean. He doesn't ask what this is, because maybe this isn't something that fits into a definition. Maybe it's just what happens when two people stop pretending they don't need touch to feel known. When your eyes meet again, there's a new stillness in the room, not the kind that asks you to be careful, the kind that invites you to be real. His hand rises, brushing your jaw now. He doesn't kiss you again, not yet. Instead, he watches your face like someone memorizing the sound of a page turning. And when you lean in this time, it's not to give permission. It's to join the question. You never talked about the next part. No one asked, no one named it. You simply stayed close long enough that your body started to hum in the same quiet frequency. Not a charge, not a pull, just a resonance. A deep private agreement between breath and skin that said, we don't have to rush and we're already here. When he kissed you again, it was not to claim, it was to continue. As if the last kiss had only paused for air. His mouth moved like it had been here before, but not with arrogance. With memory. Like he had once loved someone who smiled the way you do when your eyes close. Like he'd once cupped a face with this same hand, not knowing it would return to him through you. And your body responded. Not with performance, but with recognition. You leaned in, not because you were supposed to, but because it felt like slipping into warm water you'd once bathed in, his arms wrapped around you like they weren't trying to hold you still, but to hold you safely. And something in your chest softened, as if it had been bracing for misunderstanding, and suddenly realized it was not necessary here. There was no fumbling, no awkwardness, no hunting for each other's rhythm. From the first moment his hands slid up your back, you moved like a phrase being completed, like the rest of the sentence was written across his skin, and your body knew how to read it without hesitation. You weren't shy. You weren't bold. You were present, and presence is its own kind of nakedness. His touch was warm and firm and slow, always offering more than it demanded. His fingers traced your ribs, not to possess, but to learn. He held you like the night might end too soon, and he didn't want to miss the shape of it. You let him. Not because you were yielding, but because your breath said yes, and your spine said here, and your heart stopped hiding behind thought. You didn't speak, not with words. Only with the way your hands found his face, your thumb resting beneath. His eye, the way your mouth opened to him, not like a door, but like a vow whispered into darkness. He kissed like someone who wasn't in a hurry to reach the end, and you met him with a patience you hadn't realized you owned. You moved together, like you were made of similar music. When your shirt lifted, it wasn't stripped. It was offered, slid away like fabric no longer needed between you. And when his chest touched yours, skin to skin, the warmth felt ancient. Not new, not explosive, familiar, like your body had spent lifetimes waiting to press into this shape. Again, and there was no choreography, only instinct. Your thighs slid over his as he settled beneath you. His hand steadied your hips as if he'd done this before, not with anyone else, but with you. As if he had once drawn your silhouette from memory and was now remembering the lines with reverence. You didn't ask what this was. You didn't need to, because every time you moved, it was as though your bodies had been built beside each other and forgotten. And now, in this hush between cities and strangers, they were remembering together. There was no rush toward release, only a slow unfolding. Only breath, only presence. Only now, when you finally let go, when your body opened to him, fully it felt less like a climax and more like a return. Like something unfinished had been brought quietly to rest. You lay there after, your head on his shoulder, your leg curled over his. He stroked your arm with the back of his hand, not like someone who needed to say something, but like someone who understood that softness could stretch. Even after silence resumed, you didn't speak. You didn't ask what time it was. You didn't ask if this meant anything, because it already did, dot in the way you moved, dot in the way your bodies answered. Without question, dot in the way you made love like you were remembering rather than learning each other after everything has unfolded. The quiet beginnings, the slow recognition, the gentle unfolding of bodies. You lie still together in the dim light of the room that has become a witness to your night. The space holds you both without question, like a silent guardian that doesn't rush the hours or ask for promises. The walls, once strangers, now feel like a soft envelope, warm and safe, wrapping around your breathing. You lie side by side, the fabric of the sheets cool beneath your skin, the steady rise and fall of his chest beneath, your ear like a quiet lullaby. You watch the shadows pool and stretch across the ceiling, shapes shifting with the passing minutes, and in that movement, you find something soothing. The room doesn't demand you be anyone other than you are. No past, no future, no expectations. Just this moment, stretched thin and wide like the calm before dawn. You listen to the small sounds, the faint creak of the bed frame as he shifts, the soft scrape of a foot against the floor, the quiet hum of the city outside. Each one folds into the stillness, anchoring you deeper into this fragile bubble where time seems to slow. You turn toward him, your fingers tracing lazy patterns on his arm. your skin brushing against his in ways that need no words. He catches your gaze and smiles, a smile that isn't hurried or nervous, but steady and sure, like the sun rising gently over the horizon. Neither of you says anything. No need. Words have done their work earlier. Now silence carries you. The room has become more than just a room. It is a shelter, a witness, a keeper of secrets and warmth. It holds your breath, your laughter, your touch, and the echoes of your shared glances. It has seen the night unfold like a story that belongs only to the two of you. Outside, the city waits for morning, but here, the night lingers patient, tender, unhurried. You realize this night doesn't have to end with the dawn. It can dissolve. Slowly, softly, slipping into the next moments without fuss or fanfare. He reaches out and brushes a stray lock of hair from your forehead, his fingers lingering a moment longer than necessary. You close your eyes and lean into the touch, feeling the warmth spread through your skin like sunlight. Your heart slows, your breath deepens. You feel the quiet joy of being seen without demand, held without condition, loved without expectation. In this room, nothing is rushed, nothing is forced, only gentle presence. And as you lie there, watching the ceiling blur into morning light, you know this night will live in you, soft and tender, a quiet secret whispered between the shadows. The room never asked you to leave, and maybe neither will you. Morning finds you still wrapped in the quiet cocoon of the room, the pale light filtering through the curtains like a gentle invitation. It's not harsh or demanding, but tender, like the world is waking slowly alongside you, breathing in soft shades of gold and lavender. Don't reach for your phone. You don't rush to find your shoes. Instead, you stay here, suspended in a moment where time feels loose, like a whispered promise rather than a ticking clock. He lies beside you, his body warm and steady, the slow rise and fall of his chest beneath your hand, a rhythm you never knew you needed to learn. Your fingers trace the lines of his arm as if memorizing a map, the way the light catches the fine hair and the gentle curve of muscle beneath your touch. You realize in this quiet that this night, this unexpected meeting, has become a place you want to revisit even after the sun climbs higher. Neither of you speaks. There is no need. The words that could come feel unnecessary, like punctuation. In a poem already complete, you lift your head and catch his gaze. His eyes are softer now, still holding the memory of the night, but without urgency. There is no question of what comes next. No search for meaning or promises. Only acceptance. You smile, small and shy. He smiles back, a slow and steady smile that reaches his eyes. The bed creaks softly as he shifts closer. You meet him halfway, your hands finding his face in a gesture that feels like both a greeting and a farewell. You lean into the warmth of his skin, your lips brushing his in a kiss that is gentle and unhurried, a kiss that speaks of gratitude rather than possession. When you finally pull away, your foreheads rest together, breaths mingling. It's a touch without words, but it says everything you need to hear. No goodbyes necessary. You rise slowly, your feet finding the floor with a softness that matches the morning. He watches you, not with regret, but with quiet understanding. There's a peacefulness in his gaze, a sense that what you shared was never meant to be confined by time or expectation. You gather your things with care, moving through the apartment with the same gentle grace that defined the night. The quiet hum of the city outside feels different, now less daunting, more like a companion. Before you step toward the door, you pause. He meets you there, a silent question in his eyes. You shake your head gently, no words, just a smile. You open the door and step out into the morning light. You don't look back, because sometimes the softest parting is no parting at all. The night stays with you, and the spaces between your breaths, in the corners of your mind, in the quiet places where memory and longing live side by side. In the world, waking all around you seems just a little softer than before. You lie there, your head resting softly on his chest, and feel the steady beat beneath your ear, the quiet drum of a heart that somehow matches your own rhythm. His breath moves with yours, a gentle tide rising and falling in the calm space between moments. You don't ask what this means. You don't try to name it or hold it or pin it down like a fragile butterfly. The night itself is answer enough. Above you, the ceiling stretches wide and shadowed, patches of light playing like distant stars caught in the fabric of the room. It's not darkness, not quite. It's a quiet half-light, the kind that invites the imagination to wander too. Dream to places neither of you dare to say aloud. You watch the slow dance of shadow and light, tracing shapes that feel like wishes waiting to be made. The quiet hum of the city drifts in softly through the window, but it feels distant, like it belongs to another world, one you aren't ready to return to just yet. His fingers trace lazy patterns along your back, small circles that soothe more. Then they stir. You close your eyes and let the sensation wash over you, feeling the way time seems to fold inward, becoming something tender and infinite. Your mind drifts, imagining the ceiling as a canvas, each spot of light a story. Stories of chance meetings, of whispered confessions, of nights that stretch beyond reason and logic, held together by nothing but presence and breath. You wonder if he sees the same constellations you do, if he thinks like you, that maybe this night is a secret constellation, mapped only for the two of you. You don't speak. You don't need to. Your bodies say everything, entwined in a quiet conversation that doesn't need words. He shifts slightly, and you feel the warmth of his breath on your hair, the steady thrum of his heart beneath your cheek. Your fingers curl around his side, holding on softly, as if afraid that if you let go, this night might slip away like mist at dawn, but it doesn't. It lingers. Moments suspended between past and future, between knowing and wondering, between holding on and letting go. You think about all the things you never said, about the fears you didn't voice, the hopes you didn't dare to name, and you realize that maybe that's okay. Maybe some nights are meant to be felt more than explained. Maybe some moments are meant to stay as mystery, soft, unspoken, and beautiful in their quietness. As the minutes stretch, your breath slows, your heart softens, and the world outside fades further. Here, in this room, with this stranger who is no longer quite a stranger, you find a kind of peace. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't need to. Because right now, lying here, watching the ceiling like stars, you are exactly where you are meant to be. As the night folds softly into dawn, you carry the quiet warmth of a stranger's touch, an echo of a moment unspoken yet deeply felt. No promises made, no futures planned, only the tender memory of two souls briefly meeting in the stillness between heartbeats. And sometimes that is enough. Sometimes the most profound connections are those that slip away like whispers on the breeze, leaving behind a gentle trace of what it means to be seen, to be held, to be alive. So breathe deeply and let the night's soft secrets settle within you, a lullaby for your restless heart.